Sir, can you hear me? Park.
Yes, we can.
Oh, there we go. Very good. All right, I'm going to go ahead and admit everybody, and then we can start.
Thank you, Todd. I see both Amy and Denise.
Yes, yeah, we'll start with roll call as soon as I admit everyone. All yours, Mr. Chair.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'd like to call to order the Public Improvement Commission hearings of August 19, 2021. Mr. Liming, if you could do the honors and do a roll call for me, please.
Certainly. Representing the Public Works Department,
Haraj Isington,
Property Management,
Joseph Callahan,
Transportation,
Amy Gordon.
Inspectional Services, my understanding is Mr. Ronan will not be with us today. Water and Sewer Commission. Ms. Devlin, I believe you're here, but I don't hear you.
Todd, I believe Ms. Devlin was trying to connect over the phone, but I believe she's here today.
Yes, we'll give her a minute. Disabilities Commission,
Sarah Leon.
it looks like Ms. Devlin may have signed out, though we do have quorum.
Thank you, Todd. At this point, I'd like to take the first agenda item. At the request of the Public Improvement Commission staff, the acceptance of minutes of the PIC hearings held on August 5th of this year.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the August 5th hearing.
second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone
Oh, excuse me,
opposed?
Denise Devlin, Boston Wire and Sewer present.
Thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
Everyone, please. Second, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. First item of the hearing agenda, public hearing number 1, on a petition by Bebita Kidney Care for the making of specific repairs within Harrison Avenue, a public way, Boston proper, located on its southeasterly side at address number 660, generally northeast of East Catton Street, consisting of curb and sidewalk reconstruction, as well as new and relocated pedestrian ramps, specialty pavements, and bike racks. This was brought on a new business on August 5th of this year, 2021, as shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Specific Repair Plan 660 Harrison Avenue, Boston proper, one sheet dated July 2020. Good morning.
Good morning, thank you. My name is Chris Sade with Mitch Engineering. I think I'm joined on the call by Paul Terrell, Tech and Architects, as well as Michael Meyer from Bebita. We were before PIC at the new business hearing a couple of weeks ago. The plan here, well, the site location is on Harrison Avenue between East Canton and East Dedham Street. This was previously in front of PIC a couple of years ago in 2018 for other work that was done as part of the Smith project, and this is just a minor modification to that work. The proposed plan includes the changing of 3 spaces along Harrison Avenue from their existing metered parking to ambulance drop-off, and then some modifications to the sidewalk to bring the new door at the building to level with the sidewalk so that there can be accessible access inside the building. So we've got the new ramp here, new sidewalk here, and then some grading. All the materials will be put back in kind, so that includes the cement concrete sidewalk and the permeable strip. And then there is an existing pedestrian easement that was approved back in 2018 on the sidewalk as well, which gets the width to the minimum 5 foot required. And then the one question that had come up at the previous hearing was just coordination with BTD, and I forwarded to Todd this morning. I know Ms. Courtney wasn't on the call a couple weeks ago, but just the correspondence between Brian Zamoka at our office and the BTD.
Thank you, Chris. At this point, I'll open up for any questions by fellow commission members. Hearing none. Any comments by PSC staff and or members of today's audience?
No, none.
Thank you, Todd. At this point, I'd like to hear a motion regarding public hearing number 1.
I'll make a motion to approve a petition by DaVita Kidney Care for the making of specific repairs within Harrison Avenue as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed or abstain? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item on the agenda, public hearing number 2 on a petition by Verizon New England Inc. for grant of location with lead company status and no participants to install new telecommunication conduits with city shadow within the following public ways in Dorchester: Talbot Avenue, generally address number 52, southeast of Nightingale Street, northeast of Talbot Avenue. This was brought under new business on August 5th, 2021, as shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Grant of Location Plan, Verizon 52 Talbot Ave at Nightingale Street, proposed conduit installation, one sheet dated August 2021. Good morning.
Good morning, Parrot. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Richard.
I'm having a little camera difficulty, so I think I've only got audio this morning. Hope that's okay.
That's fine. Go on.
Yeah, so let me just get my screen shared here. Can you see the plan on my screen?
Yes. Richard, since we don't have a image of you, could you please identify yourself correctly, Richard?
Yeah, Richard Foreman, representing Verizon New England.
Thank you, Richard.
So yes, as stated, this is for placement of one 4-inch Schedule 40 PVC conduit from existing pole 14 on Nightingale Street to the property line at 52 Talbot Ave. It was requested by Boston Water and Sewer to have this conduit placed closer to the curb line on the corner of Nightingale and Talbot so that it would avoid crossing the sewer line twice. And thus we have moved the conduit closer to the curb line. It has slightly changed the footage of the conduit. I've also communicated with Verizon regarding the city shadow duct. This is going to include a city shadow conduit following the Verizon path. It's going to rise and be capped pole 14, and it's going to follow the same trench to the property line and be capped below grade at the property line. The city 4-inch, 4-inch and a quarter shadow ducts is going to follow the Verizon.
Richard, was there anything else that was requested by either PSC staff and or commission members? My notes seem to indicate that there was a question about an extra handhold that may have been requested by my chief engineer of the Public Improvement Commission.
Yeah, so I can speak to that. I communicated with Verizon that we were requesting a city handhold in the sidewalk in the vicinity of 52 Talbot Ave so that we could access the city shadow conduit. Verizon has come back and proposed that they bring the city shadow conduit up the pole and cap it above the sidewalk so that we could access. No, at the other end. Yes, sorry, I apologize. So that we could access the city shadow there. I would leave it to the commission to decide whether that's appropriate or not. I would be okay with that, personally.
Todd, I appreciate you trying to go the extra length to ensure that the city have access. I'm not sure whether I'm comfortable with this means. We will continue this conversation independent of this petition, but do communicate to Verizon that, let me say it in another way, I'm communicating with all petitioners, including Verizon, that it is strongly desired that you all try and give consideration, very serious consideration for any requests or comments put forth or given guidance by Mr. Liming, who is the Chief Engineer for the Public Improvement Commission. Okay? So, that being said, any comments by fellow commission members and, no, first, any comments by fellow commission members? Hearing none, any further comments by PIC staff and or members of today's audience?
No, none.
Hearing no further comments, I'd like to hear a motion regarding public hearing number 2.
I'll make a motion to approve a petition by Verizon New England for a grant of location in Talbot Ave and Nightingale Street as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. That concludes the public hearing segment of today's agenda. Now moving on to the new business portion of it. New business item number 1. Highgate Street, Cambridge Street, Harvard Avenue in Brighton, pedestrian easement, specific repairs, and earth retention license on a set of petitions by Alston Square Realty.
Good morning, this is John Schmidt with Niche Engineering. Can you see my screen?
Yes, John, go for it.
With me is Jacob Simmons, who's online as well with City Realty Boston, the developer of this project. What we're proposing today is a 7-story mixed-use building with first-floor retail, consisting of 82 units of housing and a 59-space below-grade garage. The first item is the supportive excavation, temporary supportive excavation. We are proposing a soldier pile and lagging system around the perimeter of the site, which will be cut 6 feet below the sidewalk once it's constructed. Along Harvard Street, we project about 2.5 feet into the public way. On Cambridge Street, we project 2.5 feet into the public way. And on Highgate Street, we project into the public way about a foot at the end of the building here. Now I apologize, this project is located in Brighton at the intersection of Cambridge Street, Harvard Ave, and Highgate Street. If you like, I can accept questions. Any questions regarding this proposal?
John?
Yeah.
Sorry, John. Normally Brian Ronan from Inspection Services Department gives us guidance on matters of this nature. Today, due to scheduling issues, Mr. Ronan is unable to be here. I don't quite recall what his schedule is like for the public hearing date, but what would be truly helpful is if for some reason if Brian is unable to be at the commission hearing 2 weeks from now, is to have a statement from Mr. Ronan to both you and PIC staff attesting to the fact that he is absolutely okay with the earth retention system.
Yeah, we did do the full notification process of 22 city agencies and utilities, and within the engineer's report, we have an email from Brian saying he has no objections. But what I can do is I can forward him this drawing and over the next 2 weeks just to confirm he no longer has any objections.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that additional due diligence.
Thank you. Moving on to specific repairs, along Cambridge Street, we are proposing a series of recharge wells in the public sidewalk. We have 8 wells. We have a tank within the building that will capture the 1 1/4 inch stormwater runoff. And then we have a system that will pump into the 8 wells within the sidewalk, and then it will overflow into the city system. The drawings have been presented to Boston Water and Sewer, and we've received 2 rounds of comments, and we are resubmitting the site plan for approval in the coming week. So they are familiar with this application.
John, your thoughts on the maintenance agreement?
So the LMI is in the process of being prepared and reviewed with Chung. I will ensure that at the public hearing, I will give you an account of the status of that. But my client is committed to providing the maintenance that's required for the system.
John, as I have and other commission members have echoed in the past, our preference to the point of insistence is that the maintenance agreements be executed at the time of the public hearing, not just additional conversation. So if you could encourage
Yep.
all parties to have an executed agreement, because it becomes increasingly difficult for us to record these plans in the absence of a signed executed document where the execution date of the signed LMI doesn't match up with our recording dates.
Understood. I will push everyone to ensure that this happens. Thank you.
Thank you. Continuing.
We have a series of specific repair plans around the perimeter of the site. On Harvard Ave, we are proposing a 3.5-foot pervious paver along the curb line and provide an 8-foot wide accessible concrete sidewalk. And in doing so, we are proposing a pedestrian easement as well. We have new street lighting that has been reviewed and approved by the Boston Street Lighting Department. We are proposing 2 new street trees along this as well. And we also have some bike racks within the paver zone. One thing I'd like to note, and I realized during the previous hearing, is that we do not propose any shadow conduit, so we will ensure that shadow conduit is indicated on the final, on the public hearing drawing. Moving along to Cambridge Street. Along Cambridge Street, we have 3.5 feet of pervious pavement, 8-foot minimum concrete sidewalk, 7 new street trees, as well as some seating areas in the pervious paver zone, 7 seating elements, and a series of bike racks within the pervious paver zone. What else can I say here? I was informed this week that the city has a capital improvement project within Cambridge Street. And I've been told that it will not impact the curb line, but we may be asked to provide a bus stop along Cambridge Street. So I have reached out to BTD, and I'm trying to schedule a meeting with them early next week to understand exactly what is proposed here, so we can address it in the next couple of weeks prior to the public hearing. Moving along to Highland Street. Highland Street, we provide near the intersection, we provide a 5-foot wide pervious paver with 2 street trees. And then throughout the entire sidewalk, we provide a 5-foot wide concrete sidewalk. We have a loading zone here. We have a garage entrance here, which is 23.6 feet wide. And then we have a loading zone, a loading dock, which is 12 feet wide along this. But we do provide a little refuge area between the 2 openings and the 2 access points to the building.
John, I'm sure you meant Highgate Street, not Highland Street.
I apologize, Highgate Street.
Thank you.
And then any questions regarding the specific repairs? And then our final application is the pedestrian easement. All right, my computer froze. The pedestrian easement, here we go. So the pedestrian easement plan is provided around the perimeter of the site to ensure that along Harvard Ave in Cambridge Street, an 8-foot wide concrete pedestrian access is provided. And then along Highgate Street, we have a 5-foot wide pedestrian access on a concrete sidewalk. So that is the gist of our application. Any questions?
John, do you have a sense of when the project proponent might be anticipating to start construction?
Yes, look, my client is anxious to start construction early this fall. This project was cooking along nicely until COVID hit last spring. Then it was delayed for 6 to 8 months, and then we picked it up late spring. We're wrapping up construction documents as we speak. We hope to have BWSC permitting approval within the next few weeks. So I believe that they hope to begin construction by sometime in September or October. I'd also like to note that the TAPA have been reviewed, and the final version is with Bill Conroy, and the CMP has also been reviewed, and the final copy, the final version the revised version is with BTD. So those 2 items are also in the process of being completed.
My question regarding the construction of this project is in relation to the city's capital improvement project. And if you could let your client know that the city will be having a well, not a significant, but a noteworthy cycle track bicycle lane project and safety improvement project going through this corridor. So there will be needed some coordination with the city's roadway project and this project. Okay, so
Thank you.
Don, I think Zach Wasserman will be the best in public works to give you guidance on the rough timelines, as much as you are seeking the considerations or the guidance from the transportation department regarding the location of the bus stop.
Okay, I'll reach out to Zach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this point, I'll open up for any questions by fellow commission members. Sarah, I'm going to assume that you are okay with the width of the pedestrian easements that are being proposed in conjunction with the streetscape improvements they are doing, where there's adequate width on both Harvard Ave, Cambridge, and Highgate to accommodate your needs. When I say your needs, the needs of the commission.
Yes, the team has adequately addressed our comments from earlier this year, as well as I saw addressing the comments regarding the reciprocal ramps at Highgate and I believe Cambridge and Harvard. I'm not sure if we received those plans by email, but John, if it's possible to just send updated plans to us, that would be great.
I will do that.
But otherwise, these reflect our comments that we made.
Thank you, Sarah. Amy, I suppose John Schmidt will have to coordinate with Matt Moran for the bus stop over there. I'm not sure whether the inclusion of the bus stop might require the adjustment of his specific repair plans.
Yeah, he's already reached out to Matt. We should be able to pull this off by the public hearing.
Thanks, Amy. Any other comments by fellow commission members? Hearing none. Mr. Liming, any comments by PSC staff and or members of today's audience?
Just would like to point out, and John can confirm that what was shown is an old version of the plans. There's a grease trap proposed for Cambridge Street that's going to be removed, correct, John?
Yes, that's right, Todd. I was actually going to address that in my hearing and in my presentation, but I was hoping no one picked up on that. But yes, that will be removed in the final submission.
Thank you. Honest mistake.
Oh, good eyes.
Thank you, Mr. Liming. Getting no further comments, we will mark this thing up for 2 weeks, which should put us to September 2nd. Is that okay with you, Mr. Schmidt?
That works. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. We will see you in 2 weeks.
All right. Stay safe, everyone.
And you too. Second item on today's agenda, 282 through 302 Raymond Street, Brook Street, East Boston, pedestrian easement, specific repairs on a set of petitions by 282 Bremen Owner LLC. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, Attorney Nick Zazula, McDermott, Quilty, and Miller. Introducing the team, we have the petitioner with me this morning, 282 Bremen Owner LLC, Neil Howard and Brian Lee. Civil engineer is Carlos Sculti, who's sharing his screen now, from Civil and Environmental Consultants, Inc. We have folks from Rhodey Architects on as well, who's the architect on the project, and I believe I saw Guy Busa from Howard Stein Hudson as well, who is on the project. Mr. Chair, just because this is the first time you've seen this project, just want to give a brief overview and background. The site's 282 to 308 Bremen Street, as you can see here on the screen. It is in East Boston in the Maverick Central neighborhood. It is directly across the street from the Bremen Street Community Park and runs to the corner of Bremen Street and Brook Street. The site itself is a fairly large site. It's about 34,160 square feet. It's narrow and elongated in shape, as you can see from the site pictures here in red. It is an edge condition, and what's on the site now is basically automobile repair facilities, garages. There is a small nondescript 4-unit residential structure, but really just lots of paved parking, no landscaping, no open space, etc. So in planning the project, which you'll see before you today, really a lot of care was respecting the kind of this elongated shape, its visibility on the park, its visibility on the corner, and designing a building that responds to that. And what is being proposed is a 110,000 gross square foot building. Here you can see some images of the streetscape now. Again, you can see the garage on the right. You can see some street images on the left of what's being proposed. And what's being proposed is a new 5-story building with 4-story end caps that step down towards Brook Street as well as towards the other side of the project. The proposed project is 139 residential apartment and/or artist live-work units, which would be on the ground floor to activate the street. About 2,155 square feet of artist workspace on the ground floor. About 3,200 square feet of retail space, lobby, and storage on the ground floor. Garage parking for up to 61 vehicles. And obviously why we're here today is really major improvements in pedestrian access, open space, public realm, and things of that nature. The project has been approved obviously by the BPDA. It's a large project review, so there were a lot of eyes on this from city agency perspectives, the public, et cetera. That was approved back in February 2020. The zoning board approved this project back in March of 2021, and many of the upgrades, specific repairs, and the ped easement that you'll see in just a moment came about as a result of, really an extensive Article 80 outreach and administrative city agency review process. We're before you today for a ped easement and specific repairs. And just a note before I toss it over to Carlos to go through what you really want to see today is I heard John Schmidt talk about the TAPA status and the CMP, and both of those for this project are at BTD currently. The CMP is under review as of today, and the TAPA has actually been reviewed and approved, and we're just waiting on the paperwork to execute it with Bob D'Amico over at BTD. So we're moving along on that front as well. And with that, I will toss it over to Carlos, who can take you through the plans that you guys would like to see in more detail. Carlos, all yours.
Thank you, Nick. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, Carlos, you're fine.
Great, thank you. For the record, Carlos Scolti with Civil and Environmental Consultants for the civil engineer on this project. As Nick mentioned, we're in front of you today for a specific repair and pedestrian easement application. So a lot of the work that we're doing is really cleaning up the frontage and adding a lot of improvements to the streetscape on both Bremen and Brook Street. So what we are proposing along the full extent of the frontage on Bremen Street is we are proposing a pervious paver strip, a 3-foot wide strip along the extent of the majority of the building, along with a 5-foot wide concrete sidewalk that will provide the accessibility. So in order to construct that 5-foot wide sidewalk, we do have a pedestrian easement that does extend onto the property that will allow for that full 5-foot width for the accessibility. There is a single driveway entrance into the ground level garage for the building, located at the far end of Bremen Street, which is 20 feet wide. That is the only driveway access on Bremen Street, which really reduces the amount of curb cuts that are there today, really cleaning up that frontage. And along Brook Street, we have a single loading access into an enclosed loading space within the building. That one's 12 foot wide off of Brook Street. So within that pervious paver strip, as we get closer to the intersection of Bremen and Brooks, a major change that's being proposed as part of this project is expanding the pedestrian realm and the streetscape frontage with essentially a shifted curb alignment that will allow for relocation of the existing blue bikes, which are currently located on the southerly side of Bremen Street. So those blue bikes will be relocated along the furnishing zone here in front of the main retail entrance to the building. It'll be an expanded pervious paver zone from the back of curb to the 5-foot wide accessible path here. Within that zone, there will also be additional bike storage provided in this expanded area, as well as additional bike storage spaces, bike racks added along the extent of Bremen Street, essentially cascading down the street here. There'll be additional bike racks proposed within that pervious paver zone along Brook Street as well. So there's also going to be a significant improvement here in terms of the access and pedestrian connectivity to the park on the south side of the road. We are proposing a raised tabletop intersection at this location, and we have been working through with BPDA, parks and disability staff in order to make sure that the alignment and the geometry of this intersection works for everybody. We have received preliminary feedback and comments back, and we do have a meeting scheduled for next Tuesday to review the comments and get everybody in the room together and revise the plan accordingly, and resubmit with any sort of minor tweaks or changes that are warranted at this intersection here. But that will really provide an improved condition at this intersection. It will be stop controlled in all directions, as it currently is today as well. We are also in front of Boston Water Sewer Commission. We've received 2 rounds of comments back on our site plan submission, and we will be resubmitting those comments back pending the final revisions to the PSC plans as well. In order to facilitate the construction of the raised intersection, we did have to add a number of catch basins in order to pick up the stormwater and prevent any sort of localized ponding. With the improvements along the frontage as well, we are proposing to add 19 new street trees along the frontage. Currently, there are none. Within the standard width section where we have the 3-foot pervious paver zone and the 5-foot concrete sidewalk, we are proposing 3x8 city standard tree pits with mulch. In the area where we have more pedestrian activity anticipated, we are proposing a 12-inch by 12-inch opening at the base of the tree with a pervious paver placed on top of it, as well as structural soil and drip irrigation in order to essentially maintain and provide better tree growth in the future for these trees. That's the majority of the improvements that we're proposing as part of this project. We're happy to take any questions or answer anything else that the commission should want clarification or additional information on.
Thank you, Carlos. I have a couple of points of clarification, and some of the questions are related to your presentation here, and then I have a question in the opening slides which Nick said. So let me start off with your ones, Carlos.
Sure.
So the retail space that is there, so when you are programming the building, very close to the intersection, I see the word retail. Can you take the little hand thing to the retail space? Okay, right, yeah, right about there. So Nick, the concern which the city may have, or the city should have, is the type of retail that's going to be there that might promote, when I say promote, it's the wrong choice of word, that may end up with cars stopping illegally, surprise, what a shock, okay, just by the entrance to this stable intersection. So Nick, there should be some consideration to understand the consequences on the type of retail that are there. Do you have any sense as to what type of retail is being proposed over there that might cause someone to park in front of that extended, now because you pull the sidewalk out? So I have a bit of a concern, the city may have a concern. So can you respond to that, Nick, first of all?
Yes, I can, yeah. So the idea here is there's no tenant right now, but in discussions with the neighborhood groups and with the butters and elected officials, they thought it'd be a good spot for a small cafe or a small grocery store. They really need, kind of a much needed public amenity. This is a major crossing area coming from the train, from the Blue Line through the park, and folks were loud and clear that some sort of small, grocery store, small retail, potentially a cafe where folks could grab something walking to and from the train in the morning, or, a neighborhood type retail. It would not, I don't think it's not a huge space. I think it's, like I said, a couple thousand square feet. So this isn't meant to be like a huge grocery store. It's meant to be more of like a market, a neighborhood market type setup. So I think it's a good point, and we can certainly look at that. I know that, we do have bump outs, and we do have other things that we've taken into consideration on this corner to help stop that from happening. But I think in general, the programming is not meant to be programming that folks would double park at this location. It's more meant to be a walkable type amenity, not a parking and drive-to type amenity for the neighborhood.
Thank you, Nick. My second question. The city has a system of a deposit when people are redoing our sidewalks, meaning we take a deposit from you in case you don't put the sidewalk back as it should. I'm sure, Nick, you're familiar with that process, right? We've been doing it for quite a few years.
Yes.
Okay, now, here you are proposing some roadway improvements also. Basically, you are jacking up the street, you are raising the street for this intersection. So Nick, can you walk me through how you are going to prove to the city that the construction work done by your client will conform with the city standards and give us a roadway that is properly graded, properly raised, properly drained? Can you walk me through how we are planning on doing that thing?
Yeah, Carlos, that might be a better one for you. I don't know if it's more about the construction of it.
Absolutely.
Sure. So as it relates to the materials and the drainage that was mentioned, as mentioned earlier, we are in front of the Boston Water Sewer Commission for the site plan review. So they are reviewing the drainage to ensure that everything is designed and constructed for all the applicable standards. And that includes the stormwater report and all the analysis. So from a drainage perspective, that will be done in full compliance with the Boston Water Sewer specifications and requirements. As it relates to the materials, the intersection will be repaved with city standard thickness for the pavement, and the tabletop has been designed in accordance with the public works and transportation details for the approaching ramps, as well as for the materials for the asphalt for the full tabletop intersection. So we are designing it, including details that will comply with the city standards. As it relates to the construction and the phasing relating to traffic flow and management during construction, my understanding is that a traffic management plan will be prepared for this work, showing the phasing of it, as well as how the work will be performed with minimal disruptions to traffic.
Thank you, Carlos, for that clarification. But I have a very specific point, so I will get as specific as possible. So the contractor for construction is going to be hired by the petitioner, okay? And Carlos, there's going to be a point in time where after the contractor does the construction per your design, will you be able to certify that the work has been done to your design standards, which were done in conjunction with the city standards? Will you?
Sure, yeah, to that point, we would have a construction oversight role with the work. It's traditional with these kind of projects that we would have a presence during construction. We would oversee some of the work to ensure that the contractor is building it per the plan.
Right, so you will certify to the city that the work done has been done per your design that was in consort with city standards. Is that affirmative?
Sure, if that's a requirement, we're happy to provide that.
It is always a requirement when proper. Because again, the distinction I want to make is the sidewalk deposit, all the work on the sidewalk, the city takes a deposit, meaning that if for some reason if the work was not done correctly, we have a recourse. Here, we don't have that. Okay, so I'm requesting that certification be done by you as the designer of record. And Mr. Lining, somehow we need to devise a mannerism where the sidewalk deposit is tied to the certification of the roadway. So that way, this is one project. I'm going to assume you are doing it in one full totality of it. So Nicole, I'm sorry, Nicole. Nick, hopefully you see the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, no, I understand it. Yeah, and Mr. Chair, through the Article 80 process, that because this is large project review, and these are tied into that review with the BPDA and the city, we need to get a certificate of completion at the end of construction in order to get occupancy. And because this is part of those improvements, the city, the BPDA would need to certify that all the construction for the building itself is done correctly and as to the plans, right? So we don't build something we didn't agree to build. And my understanding is that would also entail these other improvements as part of the project. So maybe a little bit of a belt and suspenders approach where we'd have to also certify that with them as well. But whatever we need to certify as part of the process, we'll obviously do.
Thank you, Dick. Truly appreciate that thing. So let me look at my notes. And obviously, you are proposing a lot of trees and things of that nature. So again, as I mentioned in the previous hearing, we would very much like if the maintenance agreement can be executed, not hey, we are working on it by the public hearing date. So this way, when we are going through the process of recording these plans, there's no conflict between the recording date and the executed maintenance. So now, Nick, if you could be ever so kind and go back. Oh, actually, sorry, my bad. Are there any questions by fellow commission members regarding the plans that you are seeing here by Carlos?
The Disabilities Commission looks forward next week to discussing some of the unaddressed comments and just closing the loop on those next week.
Thank you, Sarah. Any further comments by fellow commission members before I ask Nick to go back to his presentation? Hearing none, Nick, could you go to maybe the first or the second slide which you put? There was something I noticed.
Yeah, sure. You mean these slides, kind of the overview of the
not this one, maybe the next one.
The next one, sure.
That one. Okay. So on the left-hand side, the two pictures, you have like I don't know how to describe it. At the foot of the stairs, next to the tree, there seems to be like a notice board. What is that?
Correct. I believe. Yeah, sorry. I believe that is a transit. Is that a transit board, Carlos? Is that like letting people know when the buses are coming and things like that? Or I don't know what that is actually.
Well, slow down, Nick, because that is my point. I didn't want to interrupt your thinking, and I was waiting for Carlos to mention that in his presentation to the specific repairs, and he didn't mention it. So now I'm trying to figure out what the heck is this.
No,
Sure.
that's a good question, and this might be something that's better handled by Rhodey, the architect on the project.
Yeah, I
He's heavily
see.
involved in the initial permitting, but there will be a transit hub. My understanding is within the building, but with that, I'll turn it over to the folks from Rhodey to provide a little more insight on the specifics of the equipment here.
Thanks, Carlos. This is Ruthie Coolman with Brody Architects. And just to follow up on what Carlos was saying, yes, in discussions with the city, the kind of blue bike location here and the bump out at the curb is creating a transit micro hub, which as part of that, there's some integrated signage that comes with that. So we're working with the city on the specs of that piece, but it fits in with the blue bikes and this connection to the blue line T-stop.
Thank you for the point of clarification, which poses another series of thoughts and questions. Who is going to maintain this asset? Basically, if a car goes and smacks it, who is going to be maintaining that? Is it the MBTA? Is it you? It's not me.
It would be, I believe, because this is a rental building, this would be managed by the building.
Ouch. Okay, so we just need to delete the ouch part. Mr. Lining, hopefully all of these elements are very clearly specified on your maintenance agreement, which leads to my next question. Todd, are the full sidewalks, including the concrete segment, is it part of the maintenance agreement or just the specialty materials?
Because the concrete sections of sidewalk are adjacent to specialty materials, the project will need to maintain those standard sidewalks as well. I will note that this sign and any utility connections to it are not shown on the current set of PIC plans, and those will absolutely need to be added in the next 2 weeks.
Thank you, Todd. Yes, I did see the power source or all those connections. Carlos, since your client is responsible for the maintenance of the sidewalks, okay, including the driveway openings that are going to take a fair amount of cars in and out of the underground parking garage, you may want to look at the sidewalk design details to ensure that excessive vehicle traffic over that segment of the sidewalk is not going to tear it up, which is going to cause a maintenance challenge for you, but I'm more concerned about the tripping hazards for the pedestrians. Okay?
Understood. The sidewalk along the majority of the frontage of Bremen will be a city standard with the pervious pavers and the traditional tree grates and the 5-foot wide concrete sidewalk. So we will include those details and we'll make sure that it's constructed appropriately.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we put a little wire mesh on aprons that are like driveway aprons. So I leave it up to you because you're the one who's going to maintain that thing. That's all the comments I had. Any further comments by fellow commission members?
If I could just clarify, Mr. Chair, you had mentioned the parking being underground. The parking's at surface, just for the record.
My bad, sorry.
No, it's okay. Just to make sure that didn't bring up other questions because it's at surface. That's all.
Oversight. But I hope you understand. I mean, I'm going to assume loading and unloading of trash trucks, where's that happening on that side? Got it. Okay, so again, the sidewalk over there will have more wear and tear than just the pedestrian traffic. So you may want to beef up the sidewalk deck with the appropriate material just to ensure the longevity of your investment. Okay. Any further comments? Hearing none, we will mark you up for 2 weeks, which would allow us to see you on September 2nd. Is that okay with you folks?
Yes, I believe we also need to show Carlos the ped easement, right? I don't know if you.
Sure, we touched on it briefly.
I didn't want to skip over that.
Yeah, we touched on it briefly, but the second application will be the pedestrian easement. In order to construct the full 5-foot wide accessible path, we are providing a pedestrian easement along the full frontage of Bremen Street. And we did also review, as a point of clarification, that any building overhangs that are entirely within the property, but partially over the pedestrian easement, will provide more than 12 feet of essentially clear space below those overhangs, so those will be compliant with the requirements as well.
Slow down, you went a little bit too fast for me. So basically you do have an overhang that is above the pedestrian easement. Is the structures, again, I need the guidance of our inspection services department folks, whether it is not negating the formation of icicles that may fall and beam my skull. So, I mean, the city has a whole protocol as to how those structures should be, whether they're internally drained or I don't know all of it, but there's a concern about icicles or matters of that nature. So can someone speak to that? With the inspection services department has recognized the fact that you have structures that are going to be not over the current city right of way, but over the pedestrian easement. Please, someone.
I will work with the project to ensure that these building elements are heat traced and drain internally if applicable. And I'll discuss this with ISD as well.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. Just make sure that Brian's in the loop or has something. Okay.
This is Eric with Roadie Architects. Just as a point of clarification, they're not canopies, so they will not be draining and creating icicle situations. It's actually part of the building massing, as you can sort of see in this view here. But we will make sure we address the issue through our building design in detail.
Thank you. That's all the commission needs, just the recognition of the fact that the respective city departments have looked at it, understands the implications. Yeah. Because when they were doing the building design overview, they may not have, it is possible that they may not have clued into the point of you granting us a pedestrian easement, which creates a bit of an awkward moment. Okay?
Understand. Thank you for the comment.
Good thing on one side, a bit of clarification on the other side. Okay? All right, any further comments? Not trying to labor the point here. Any comments by PIC staff and all members of today's audience?
No, none.
Hearing none, we will see you in 2 weeks. That should put this to September 2nd. Will that work with you folks?
Yes, thank you.
Excellent.
Thank
See
you very
there.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Last
you.
item on today's agenda under the new business segment. Item number 3, Huntington Avenue, Massachusetts Avenue, Boston proper, grant of location on a petition by Cellco Partnership doing business as Verizon Wireless. Good
Thank you,
morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Michael Gimo, attorney at Robinson & Cole, representing Verizon Wireless. I will share my screen if that's okay, if I can figure out how to do it. Let's see. There we go. This is a request for a conduit installation starting at Massachusetts Avenue. And I'm just going to go back up screen. There we go. Starting at Massachusetts Avenue and extending east onto Huntington Avenue to a street light on the north side of Huntington Avenue. This would be a replacement street light for a wireless node. The plan shows a 2.5 inch conduits plus an 1.5 inch shadow conduit, a new handhold, and a conduit that brings in power from this side, and a conduit that's a lateral to the light pole on the north side of Huntington Avenue. And this is a similar installation to others you've seen, where there will be a replacement street light, which is designed according to the city's protocols and will provide wireless service as well as lighting. We did receive some comments from the Disabilities Commission, which we have agreed to those comments, as well as street lighting, which we've also agreed to those comments. And that's it. It's a pretty simple installation, I think.
Thank you, Michael. I just want to make sure that my head is capturing what you're saying in its totality. Basically, this is singularly to support the access of a wireless system from a refurb, not when I say refurbish, you know, when you all switch our street lights to antenna pole and to get that wireless signals into your conduit system. Did I capture that thing?
Yes, it's to run fiber to the pole and then a power connection.
So, Michael, we recognize the absolute service which is provided to all those that are in Boston, okay, from that service. But I want you to give some consideration from my viewpoint as to the condition of the roadway of Mass Ave right in front of Symphony Hall. We, the city, have invested millions of dollars in trying to make that roadway look nice. And all of these antenna connections is causing us to cut off the roadway. So here's my appeal to you, Michael. If you or someone from your team can go take a look at the condition of the roadway at the intersection of Mass Ave at Huntington Avenue and try and visualize what that trench cut is going to do and how it is going to look. Now, we, the city, we have standards as to how we are supposed to put things back, but I'm getting a little bit anxious about the amount of cuts that are there to streets that may be looking really, really nice. So that's a concern which we are having. We are not opposition, we are not in opposition of your project, but it has to do with what singularly the amount of restoration that you need to do so that these continuing scars of our roadways make it look as not prominent as it needs to respect the city. Here, the northwest corner, we got Symphony Hall. Okay? Am I making any sense to you, Michael?
Yes, thank you. I understand. I don't know if Nicole O'Brien's on the call. I don't know from Verizon. I don't know if she wants to address that, or we can come back to you and address it at the hearing. I know one of the purposes of getting in front of you today was because we understand there's a paving project that we wanted to get ahead of. So exactly for the reasons you were talking about.
Michael, if that is the answer, then I have wasted your time, okay? As long as someone cleans it up, whether it is us or you, but if you drive around our city, you can see the amount of cuts that are there, and I scratch my head to understand where is the lack of coordination, where we are not recognizing the basic functionality of the roadways. I mean, it is to serve the traffic, but it shouldn't look like a city which we are not to be proud of. This is Boston. Okay? And
Understood, and we'll come back to you with a clear answer at the hearing.
thank you. Because for some reason, if you are not coming up to clean this place up as a follow-through action, then you need to tell us how your activity, well supported by us, is going to impact the gazillions of people that are either driving through Huntington Avenue or Mass Ave, or those who are going to Symphony Hall. You know, so just
Understood.
pretend that you are wearing your tux and however one goes to Symphony Hall, and see how you would like the surrounding to look like. That's all. Don't want to labor the point. But seems like you have it under control, but just do let PIC staff know beforehand, because I don't think I'm going to have a laborious conversation during the public hearing if we find that there is no appropriate trench restoration.
Okay, thank you. We'll do that.
Thank you, Michael. At this point, I'll open up for any comments or concerns by fellow commission members. Hearing none, any comments by PIC staff and or members of today's audience?
No, none.
Hearing none, Michael, we will mark you up for a public hearing 2 weeks from now, which should put us to September 2nd.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. That concludes the business of today's agenda. I'd like to hear a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Everyone have a safe week.